Today is the day, guys. We're talking about this guy, the Blackmagic Fairlight Desktop Console. I've been playing with this thing for a little while here, and it is really cool. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot to learn. There's a lot going on here. A lot of different things that you can do with this panel, but we're going to get into it today a little bit. I'm going to talk about what all the buttons and the dials do. We may even try it out a little bit here, or we are going to try it out a little bit here in DaVinci Resolve with some multi-track music that I did, some of the recording that we did in an earlier video that's going to be part of this series about, mixing music here in DaVinci Resolve. I actually have the manual up on my screen over here because there's so much you can do that I may need to refer to it from time to time just to make sure that I'm getting everything done and getting everything in there that we should be getting in there. The first thing I want to do is talk about getting this board hooked up to your computer and getting it to show up in DaVinci Resolve. So when you get the panel here, it comes with a USB 3 cable over here, or USB-C? USB-C cable. So you run that directly into your computer, which I've already done. And then it doesn't come with a power cord. So the power cord for this guy is one of the three-prong plugs. So if you need it, you might need to pick one up because the board doesn't come with one. So you might notice once you get this guy hooked up, it doesn't come alive, nothing's happening, there's no lights, there's no on-off switch, you're not really sure what's going on here, and we need to fire up DaVinci Resolve to make this board come alive. Now, quick note, if you're looking for the manual for this thing on what all the buttons, knobs, dials, everything does, it's actually part of the DaVinci Resolve manual. So you would need to just open that up, and that's what I've got on my screen over here. It's just your normal DaVinci Resolve manual, and there's a section about the consoles in there, and that's where you're going to find the manual for everything that this board can do and how to change things and all that kind of fun stuff. So once this board's hooked up to your computer, the first thing you want to do is jump on your computer, and you're going to want to find your DaVinci control panel setup. Now for me, if I go to my applications, because I'm on a Mac, and I open my DaVinci Resolve folder, I have DaVinci Resolve control panel setup. So you're going to want to go ahead and open that up. Now when you open that up, you're going to see something that looks like this. You may or may not see your console appear. You can always click down here to add it. And when I did it, it said there was an update. So I went ahead and did the update so that the software on the board itself is most current and is up to date with everything that's the latest and greatest from Blackmagic. Now you can hook it up to your network if you want. There is a network Ethernet cable in the back. And if you were going to do that, you would come into the setup over here in the desktop Fairlight console. You can adjust your IP address and stuff like that. So I didn't need to do that because I just used that USB-C right into my Mac, and I should be good to go. To connect the console to DaVinci Resolve, open up Resolve, come to the menu DaVinci Resolve at the top left, down to Preferences. Under System, go to Control Panels, and in Audio Console, in this section right here, click the drop down, select Fairlight Desktop Console, and then go ahead and hit Save. You'll notice you'll get this. Changes will take effect the next time Resolve is started. Just hit OK, and you're good to go. Then you can go ahead and close DaVinci Resolve. So now that you got your board all up to date, we need to open up DaVinci Resolve, and this thing is going to come alive. So I'm going to come down to my applications. I'm going to go ahead and open up DaVinci Resolve here, and we should see the board come alive. So I opened up a project here in DaVinci Resolve, and it's where I recorded 32 tracks directly into DaVinci Resolve, all part of our making music and mixing music series here. We're going to go over this board and kind of go piece by piece and section by section so you guys can see what it does, how it works, some of the options available to you, and I'm sure there's even things that I'm not going to cover here that this board is going to do that I might not know about yet, or that we're just not going to get too in depth on at this point in time. So let's just start by taking a look at this section right over here. So this section is our transport controls. Now, if you've used other jog wheels and maybe the DaVinci Resolve keyboard editor or the speed editor, you're going to have one of these jog wheels here. And you can see if we look in our DaVinci Resolve window here, as I scroll this guy. All right, we can move around the timeline there. I'm actually going to throw my headphones so I can hear what's going on here. Turn down our main volume a little bit here. So we can move around the timeline using this jog wheel, which is great. The faster you move it, the faster the playhead is going to go along your timeline. We've got our play, stop controls. So if I hit play, stop, and then we'll stop our playback. We've got our record button here. If you're going to record directly into DaVinci Resolve, you can use that. We have our fast forward and rewind button. So if I hit the fast forward here, it's going to play fast forward. If I hit rewind, it's going to go backwards. Now I can use these extra keys here, the shift and the scroll. So if I turn the scroll on, Now the playhead is just going to move a little bit faster down the timeline when I use the jog wheel here. You can see it moving pretty quick. That'll help you get to where you want to go quickly. I'm going to turn that off. Then we also have our shift key right here. So by pressing our shift key, it's going to give us different options just like it does on your keyboard. So if I push the shift key, so the shift key is going to allow you to almost go play it back in super slow motion with the jog wheel there. Now with the fast forward and rewind here, you can press it multiple times to go, 2 times speed, 3 times speed, go faster. And then hit the stop button when you get to where you want to be. Rewind button there, that's going to go backwards. So using these controls right here, it allows you to move around your timeline pretty quickly. Now down here, we do have a cool little button that is a zoom button. By holding the hourglass and then moving your wheel here, your jog wheel, you can zoom in on the timeline to specific points that you want to be at. So this whole section right here is really handy. You're going to be using it all the time when you're using the console here, just to move around your timeline and get to where you want to be with the playhead. In this section right here, we have our monitoring controls, which is going to affect the different ways we're trying to monitor our audio. For example, this guy right here, we've got the full volume in DaVinci Resolve. We can dim our audio or mute it right here. We can also tell it whether we're listening through speakers or headphones like I have right here. And another one that's important you're going to want to take a look at is the channel right here. So if we look across the top here, we've got our different channels there. I can scroll through my different channels. So however many channels you have, we can only see 12 of them here at a time. So when you have more tracks, you need to use these buttons to scroll through your different tracks. So those you're going to be using all the time. The next section we have here is our automation controls. So if you're working with automation, these are going to be some controls that you're going to use pretty much all the time. In this video, we're not going to be using the automation, but maybe we may get into that at some point just to see how it works and how we can use the board to do that. So that covers the right side of our board. Now let's talk about the whole middle section here. So obviously down in the bottom here, we've got our faders, right? Now this is what is going to help us mix our audio for our entire video, or in this case, our music track. Now, there's a lot of functionality to being able to mix and have buttons and sliders versus doing it in Resolve. It's going to give us a better opportunity to balance things and just blend them all together. So each fader is essentially a channel, right? By default, without hitting any other buttons, each strip here is a particular channel. For example, Vocal 1. Right here, we've got my Vocal 1 fader, and then we have our mutes. I have a solo, so I can play only that channel. We have our select button, so if we wanted to jump on a particular track and make some changes, I would want to hit the select button here, and now I have Vocal 1 selected. So if I used some other keys, which we'll talk about in a second here on the board, it's going to jump me into more detailed things that I can take a look at. And then at the top here, we have a touch-sensitive knob that will allow us to make adjustments based on whatever we have going on up in our screens up top up here. So in this case, by default, it is giving you a pan left and right. So in each track, you've got all those controls that you can work with on a particular track level. You can, again, scroll through your tracks, make changes there. Try not to bump the jog wheel because then you're going to be giving yourself some audio there. Now, if we wanted to work a little more in detail on a particular track, say, we wanted to work on I'm going to pick the acoustic guitar here, right? Acoustic guitar. I'm going to hit the select button there, and it highlights red. So now I know my acoustic guitar track is selected. And if we look in DaVinci Resolve, we can see that the acoustic guitar track is also selected. So now let's jump over into this section over here, our control buttons. Now this is going to be what brings up our different controls that are specific to a given track. So master, that is going to be your master buses and your master levels. So in this case, we want to work on a track level to start with, so we don't need the master button. Now, if I come to channels, I'm going to go ahead and hit channel. Now, when I hit this channel button, if I hit it twice, it's going to show me all my channels. But if I just hit it once, the track that I have selected, which was my Vocal 1, is now going to show me a whole bunch of different things on our screens. Now, along the top, we can still see our different tracks, right? But right now, we're working inside our Vocal 1 track because that's what we have selected. And when we look across our different options here, we've got different things. We've got path settings, our compressor, our limiter. We got a high pass filter, EQ settings that are quick to access, and we can just start to work with our channel by looking at all these different things and do it channel by channel. So I can, make adjustments to the compressor here as far as the threshold is, but these are kind of like your high level settings, right? We want to start to look at some of the channels and make high level changes. Now, if you want to get down into a specific setting a little bit more, we've got different options here. So we've got our pan. So this is going to be more detailed pan work for our track that is selected. We can work with our plugins. Right now I don't have any plugins applied, so that's why we don't see any. We can work with our EQ, and we can see here is our page 1 of our EQ. We've got all kinds of different EQ settings. If we want to work with our expander, we can hit that. If we want to work with our compressor more in detail, we can hit the compressor button. Our limiter, our input levels, and then our sends, right? If we want to send that track to other buses, we can do that if we want to. So this is where you've got a lot of those controls that you can jump in a track, make specific changes. Maybe you're working with some EQ. We're going to hit the EQ, boom. Now we can go through and work with our EQ. And it'll also appear on the screen in DaVinci Resolve so that we can see the changes that we're making. The other thing I didn't mention is we can also hook up an external monitor to this where you can see all of these tools in a bigger view right in front of you on an external monitor, in addition to seeing it in DaVinci Resolve. So it depends on what kind of setup you're going for, but you've got a lot of options on how you can see things that you're doing with the panel in Resolve on an external keyboard. Lots of cool things that you could check out. So the next section down right here is our user buttons, and these come with some default things in there. If I just hit my magnifying glass over here and then I press number 1, it's going to bring up a menu. And right now it says it's blank, but if I use the Alt key down here, it's going to bring up some different menu options for us. So on the screen we can see we have blank, we have level, nudge, clip, and basic. So basically the order you see on the screen corresponds to the order of these buttons. So let's say I wanted to make a levels change. I hit number 3. And then when I let go of the Alt button, now I've got additional options that I can use with these same buttons right here. Let's say I wanted to fade the playhead. I'm going to just hit number 3, and it's going to fade the playhead in for me. If I want to undo it, there's a nice little undo button right here. I can hit undo, and it's going to undo that change for me. And by holding the Alt key and pressing the different buttons here, I'm going to jump into different menus where I can cut clips, copy, split. There's all kinds of different things. You can nudge clips left and right. Again, change your levels, come down to 5. We can do things on a clip level. We can reverse it, open the inspector. So if I hit 3 now, you're going to see it opens up the inspector here in DaVinci Resolve. So a lot of functionality here, and it would take some time to kind of ramp up and get up to speed with how these buttons work and what you're going to use them for. And the preset stuff that's in there as far as, you know, how your workflow is, when you want to change things. It would definitely take some time to get used to working with this board. For sure, you're not going to just jump on and be able to cruise right through right away. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you're looking at something like this, it's going to take you some time to learn how everything works. Then you have arrow buttons down here, and they're going to do different things for you. It's going to go frame by frame here, move forward slow for us. We can press the up arrow to go to the beginning of a clip. We can press the down arrow to go to the end of a clip, and frame by frame back and forth there with the arrows. The arrows also do other things, and a lot of these buttons do multiple things. So if you hold the shift, the alt, the control, and some of the arrow keys or the user keys up here, different things are going to happen and options are going to be available to you on this board. So while this guy is the mixing console, they also make the Fairlight audio desktop editor, which is going to give you a little bit more flexibility as far as how you work with, you know, things like that are in this control group over here, your dynamics, your EQ, your things like that. And I do look forward to trying that out in the future. But what this board that I have found is really good for is being able to mix and blend and use our faders to, you know, make changes easier, quicker. I can listen and make some changes here. I can work with the EQ and the dynamics, and I'm going to continue to do that a little bit more here. But where this thing shines is being able to move around the timeline and blend and fade things together. So now that we kind of covered a little bit of the layout of the board, some of what it can do and some of the features, there's a lot more to this that I'm not going to go into right now because we'll be here for like the next 5 days. But there's a lot going on here. But let's jump into Resolve and let's just try and mix a little, because the best thing that I think about this is having the faders and being able to mix everything. So let's jump into Resolve. We're going to work on putting together a little mix here. Now, I'm not going to do EQ and dynamics and all that kind of stuff. We're going to work on that in maybe the next video. But I just want to show you how we can kind of try to build out the mix a little bit using our Fairlight panel here. So what I'm going to do is just take a look at my tracks here. I'm looking at my tracks. I've pulled down all of my faders. Looking in DaVinci Resolve over here, I want to go back to the beginning of our timeline. So I'm going to hit the up button right here. There we go, back to the beginning. Now I'm just going to hit the play button and let's start to build this mix out. I want to start with, say, the drums. So I'm going to go ahead on my channel tracks. I've got my drum tracks here, and I have all those drum tracks getting sent to a bus. So my drum bus is right here. So I want to make sure that that's up, right? So that I can hear everything that's coming through. And now I'm going to start to mix together my drums. So I'm going to play through. I'm just going to listen and I'm going to look at my different drum channels and we're going to try and mix it together. The other thing I'm going to do is solo my drum tracks. So let's play and we're going to just start with our kick drum here. All right. So now one thing to keep in mind is that it doesn't sound as good as we want it to. We're going to get into mixing it and EQing and little dynamics and all that stuff later. Now I just want to show you how we can mix with the faders, so keep that in mind. So we're going to start with our drums. Sounds kind of good. Then we're going to go ahead and move to adding in some of the bass and low end stuff. Go back, unsolo these guys. So you get the idea there. We can just pull together a mix. We can balance things. Now, I do need to go through every individual channel here. We're going to play with them, you know, do a little EQ, some dynamics and stuff like that, and make them sound the best that we can. But you see the functionality of it here when we have a whole lot of tracks that we want to mix in. Now, it can be the same for your video and your music and your sound effects. We can use the different tracks to blend things and fade things together, use our jog wheel to go back and forth, and really just build up a mix. And having the faders here in front of you and being able to solo things real quick, pan things left and right, really adds to the functionality of this and just makes it super handy when you've got a lot of tracks that you're trying to mix and blend together versus being on the computer with a mouse trying to hunt around and find everything. I think the faders really make a big difference when you're trying to mix everything together, whether it's for music, whether it's for a movie, a scene, sound effects, music, whatever it might be that you have in your videos. A board like this can really come in handy. Now, I will say just a couple things about it that are challenging when you're working with things like the EQ. There's going to be a learning curve, right? And when I look at this, it's not as easy as looking at the graph that I see on the screen. And the other console editor, the Fairlight editor, audio editor, I guess it's called, would be a lot better to be able to do that kind of stuff with, whereas this is primarily a mixer to mix everything together. You do have the functionality of being able to change a whole lot of stuff, but the primary job of this is to mix and blend everything together, and the fact that we can, pan really quick and easy and mix with our faders here makes a huge difference when we're trying to work through our videos. So that wraps up this video, the intro to the Fairlight console here, desktop console. It's cool, I like it. I'm gonna play with it some more, and we're gonna be getting into more videos. The next video we're gonna be getting into, I believe I'm gonna do a one where we are mixing, but we're also using more of the tools on here, working with the EQ a little bit, watching what's happening in DaVinci Resolve, along with what's happening here. And we're gonna try and make our music mix sound a little bit better. And a lot of these things you can apply to your sound effects and your music and your videos that you might make for anything else, whether it's a film, whatever it might be. You can use all the tips and the tricks that we're going to be talking about for that. It's just easy to show a lot of this stuff when you're working with music, vocals, and instruments and things like that. So with that said, if you've got questions on this panel, you want to see more about it, let me know before I have to send it back to BlackMagicDesign. But it's cool, it's a lot of fun, and it makes mixing a whole lot easier when you've got all these faders and stuff in front of you. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Drop your questions and comments down below. With that said, I will see you in the next video. Peace.